Hi, I cut myself off in the middle of the last recording, so this is going to be a part 2 for chapter 9, which is the acceptance of the atonement, section 1, the acceptance of reality. I probably wasn't quite finished talking about paragraph 3, but I said plenty, so we'll move on to paragraph 4. Before I do, I just want to share some circumstances. So I was talking along and I looked at the computer and noticed the recording had frozen, which had never happened to me before. However, my experience with this computer and the computer previous to this is that they will just sometimes start doing whatever they want. And then it seems like the only way to address it is to, force a shutdown and then turn it back on, and then it's working fine again. So sometimes I thought, well, maybe I should just watch what the computer is doing, because maybe it's going to send me a message of some sort. And I've done that for a few times. Let's just see what crazy things it's doing and if it's going to open something up and try to show me something. But that never seemed to materialize. So I just restart. And just this morning, the thought crossed my mind, it's never gone crazy when I've made a recording. What if it did? And then it did. Now, this is not a harmful context. It's nothingness. It didn't hurt me. It didn't hurt anyone. So we get to learn about our thoughts, not in ways that will punish us, but in gentle, small ways that help us focus and be aware and reorient, and to see the necessity of stopping when we have a thought that is lying to us. It might not lie about the experience we've set ourselves up to have, right? But it's lying about our nature and who we are, and the fact that anything could be against us or stand in anyone's way. That's not who we are. We're not beings who are impeded by anything. So yeah, it was a lesson. And before I went to start the part 2, I thought, I'm not sure if I'm going to get this recording back or not. So I just put a little note at the end of the other one. If I do, I'll do a part 2. But I turned the computer off knowing I might have to do this whole thing over again. I turned it back on. I do have my old recording, so that's good. I can use it. And then my daughter came downstairs and said she wanted to use a screwdriver to take the blade off a pencil sharpener, to use it on a mask that she's making. So I helped her. We found the right screwdriver. My fear is coming up, and I admit it to her. I said, all I can think of is, this is dangerous, and be careful, and it's sharp, and she said, I know, I was gonna cover it up with tape, it's okay. But when it came time to pick up the blade and take it upstairs, we both hesitated, and my fearful thought is she's gonna pick the blade up and cut herself. And I ended up getting a piece of tape and showing her how you can just put the tape on the blade and pick up the piece of tape. And but fear was there during that, and I don't want to dwell on the fear, but I don't want to also pretend to an experience of a persona that does not experience fear in different ways every day. These symbols come to me, and I need to find my way through. So I find taking a moment after to see the blade's going to cut her. That is my thought, and to set it aside and remember my mind holds only what I think with God, and to remember that everything we see and experience can come from that, and we can begin to trust in what's real, not in the hallucination of what's unreal. So in my, I trust my daughter, and I trust her to handle things appropriately, and I know she'll be fine. So I think we're just giving these little opportunities, and sometimes big ones, but the little ones seem easier to learn from quickly. Is that all I wanted to say? I think it is. Okay. So paragraph 4. You have imprisoned your will beyond your own awareness, where it remains but cannot help you. I remember what I wanted to say. She's making a mask of a fighter with a blade. It's just a mask. The mask isn't the being. And I found that a helpful symbol. Okay. When I said that the Holy Spirit's function is to sort out the true from the false in your mind, I meant that he has the power to look into what you have hidden and recognize the will of God there. His recognition of this will can make it real to you because he is in your mind and therefore he is in your reality. If then his perception of your mind brings its reality to you, he is helping you to remember what you are. The only source of fear in this process is what you think you will lose. Yet it is only what the Holy Spirit sees that you can possibly have. Oh, that's sticking with me. It is only what the Holy Spirit sees that you can possibly have. But what I originally wanted to focus on was when I said that the Holy Spirit's function is to sort out the true from the false in your mind, I meant that he has the power to look into what you have hidden and recognize the will of God there. So thank goodness. In this situation with the perception of the danger of a tiny pencil sharpener blade, the Holy Spirit has the power to look into what I have hidden and to recognize the will of God there. Buried underneath all of my fear and concern is God's will for perfect happiness for everyone, and it's safe to release that. Okay. Paragraph 5. I have emphasized many times that the Holy Spirit will never call upon you to sacrifice anything, but if you ask the sacrifice of reality of yourself, the Holy Spirit must remind you that this is not God's will, because it is not yours. There is no difference between your will and God's. If you did not have a split mind, you would recognize that willing is salvation, because it is communication. So if you did not have a split mind, you would recognize that willing is salvation because it is communication. I have a split mind. I feel fear. Not in reality, but this is my experience. And the experience I have stubbornly kept myself cycling in has to be addressed. And Holy Spirit is here to help me. Jesus is here to help me. So I would recognize that willing is salvation. We all need to be saved from this apparent fear and danger that we made. And our will, our shared will for perfect happiness for everyone, is salvation. Our perception gets corrected to show us a world of harmlessness, of innocence, of truth, of grace, of shared power. And of course it's possible. We choose miracles instead of murder. We allow miracles. Salvation is communication with our Creator, not blocking our Creator, allowing our shared will to extend, to be reflected back to us in the last illusion. Okay. Paragraph 6. It is impossible to communicate in alien tongues. You and your Creator can communicate through creation, because that and only that is your joint will. A divided mind cannot communicate because it speaks for different things to the same mind. This loses the ability to communicate simply because confused communication does not mean anything. A message cannot be communicated unless it makes sense. How sensible can your messages be when you ask for what you do not want? Yet, as long as you are afraid of your will, which is God's will, that is precisely what you are asking for. So when we're trying to stay in this world of strife and torment we made up and can never be real, and we're trying to keep ourselves there, and the effort to keep ourselves there is all the fear and resistance and sense of danger we feel. We keep ourselves here, but what we can do is allow our perception to be corrected to remind us of where we've actually been this whole time. We've never left heaven. And so slowly, gently, we're going to be reminded of where we never left. Our perception will be corrected. You and your Creator can communicate through creation, because that and only that is your joint will. So if you think of the extension of love forever, that's all you've ever done. You've only ever created. You've never made anything that's been a fantasy. I've never made anything. We've only created love, which extends forever, and we've done that in unison and harmony. That's the only happening. Okay, paragraph 7. You may insist that the Holy Spirit does not answer you, but it might be wiser to consider the kind of questioner you are. You do not ask only for what you want. This is because you are afraid you might receive it, and you would. We want to go home and have the full awareness of home, and if we truly asked for that, we would have it. But the fact that we're not fully aware of who we are and where we are, and it's not really aware, means that we're blocking it. Okay. Afraid you might receive it, and you would. This is why you persist in asking the teacher who could not possibly give you what you want. I ask ego. Of him you can never learn what it is, and this gives you the illusion of safety. So I've been getting an illusion of safety from the ego, and now it's time for the exchange, to allow Holy Spirit to show me through illusion first where my true safety is, and a reflection of my true safety. Holy Spirit uses illusion to point toward that, and then back I go. I kind of wake up aware of where I have always been. Okay. You cannot be safe from truth, but only in truth. Reality is the only safety. Your will is your salvation because it is the same as God's. The separation is nothing more than the belief that it is different. Yet you cannot be safe from truth, but only in truth. Any sense of struggle I feel, I'm trying to build a safety, like a shell over me that protects me from truth. And waking up to this, seeing this, being aware of this during my day as many times as it happens, that's okay, because help is here for me in each one of those instances. And where are we? We're in truth. We're in truth where there are no blades and no threats. That's where we are. And we can be reminded of that when we're ready. Okay, paragraph 8. No right mind can believe that its will is stronger than God's. If then a mind believes that its will is different from his, it can only decide either that there is no God or that God's will is fearful. The former accounts for the atheist and the latter for the martyr who believes that God demands sacrifices. Either of these insane decisions will induce panic because the atheist believes he is alone and the martyr believes that God is crucifying him. Yet no one really wants either abandonment or retaliation, even though many may seek both. Can you ask the Holy Spirit for gifts such as these and actually expect to receive them? He cannot give you something you do not want. When you ask the universal giver for what you do not want, you are asking for what cannot be given because it was never created. It was never created because it was never your will for you. So the universal giver can give us things that are real, can remind us that we've always had the things that are real. Peace and joy, clarity, love. Okay. Either of these insane decisions will induce panic. So there are decisions. If then a mind believes that its will is different from his, it can decide either that there is no God or that God's will is fearful. So the two decisions that are insane are, number one, there is no God, and number two, God's will is fearful. So either of these insane decisions will induce panic because the atheist believes he is alone and the martyr believes that God is crucifying him. So we're not alone. We're all one. We're all together. And the power we share is benign power. We can be reminded of that as many times as we need to be. The martyr believes that God is crucifying him, which means if I'm in the martyr setting, I believe in punishment. I believe punishment is real. But Spirit comes to remind me that punishment, no matter how impressive my hallucination has never been real. Hallucination cannot be real. But love is real, and harmony is real, togetherness is real. All of that is real in our being, the unity of our being, and the love that extends eternally from our shared being. That's real. So we can get reoriented to that. Either these insane decisions, either that there is no God or that God's will is fearful, will induce panic. So when we're fearful, we're oriented toward being alone or oriented toward being crucified, being a martyr, being punished. And whenever we have a sense of an aggressor or a sense of a victim, we're doing the martyr thing. And whenever we have stress and trying to do and accomplish, we're doing the atheist thing. We're doing the I'm alone and I have to struggle through this. Because the atheist believes he is alone and the martyr believes that God is crucifying him. Thank goodness that is not happening and we are not alone. Okay, paragraph 9. Ultimately, everyone must remember the will of God because ultimately everyone must recognize himself. This recognition is the recognition that his will and God's are one. In the presence of truth, there are no unbelievers and no sacrifices. In the security of reality, fear is totally meaningless. Think about fear being totally meaningless, having no ability to appear or push you this way or that way. That's a nice moment for me. To deny what is can only seem to be fearful. Fear cannot be real without a cause, and God is the only cause. God is love, and you do want him. This is your will. Ask for this, and you will be answered, because you will be asking only for what belongs to you. So fear cannot be real without a cause, and God is the only cause. Ego seems to be a cause. Ego causes fear, the experience of fear, the fantasy, the hallucination, the dream of fear, but it cannot be real. It's just a dream. The fear cannot be real because it doesn't have a cause. The ego is nothingness, and God is the only cause. And what does God cause? The extension of love forever. God causes all of his creations and the extension of love through all creations forever. It's simple, it's not complicated, and we come to value and crave and remember the simple. Fear cannot be real without a cause, and God is the only cause. We have no need to fear God because all God does is create, and all God does is create lovingly. Anything else we think is real, we imagined because we imagined a pretend opposition to God. Meanwhile, God has never been opposed, never had to struggle, never been damaged. And same goes for us, but we've imagined that it has happened, and we often attribute that damage we believe has been done to us to God. Okay, paragraph 10. When you ask the Holy Spirit for what would hurt you, he cannot answer, because nothing can hurt you. The ego, nothing can hurt you in your experience, or nothing can hurt you. What you are, not your character, what you are, nothing can hurt you. So either way you look at that, that's true. And so you are asking for nothing. Any wish that stems from the ego is a wish for nothing, and to ask for it is not a request. It is merely a denial in the form of a request. The Holy Spirit is not concerned with form, being aware only of meaning. The ego cannot ask the Holy Spirit for anything because there is complete communication failure between them. Yet you can ask for everything of the Holy Spirit because your requests to him are real, being of your right mind. Would the Holy Spirit deny the will of God? And could he fail to recognize it in his Son? So yet you can ask for everything of the Holy Spirit because your requests to him are real, being of your right mind. So in my right mind, I can ask to have everything back because I tried to set aside everything, unity, and substitute this dream of complexity and separation and conflict on top of it. mistake, mistake that can be corrected. So I can, because I'm not the ego, I can ask the Holy Spirit, hey, could I have everything, please? That's not greedy. Ask for everything. Yet you can ask for everything of the Holy Spirit, because your requests to him are real, being of your right mind. So we all are capable. If you think of everyone and everything is capable of requesting everything of the Holy Spirit from our right mind, which is shared. And then that puts the world in very good shape. If everyone's capable of asking for everything from the Holy Spirit, and there's an abundance of that everything to give, being that it is the one real thing forever, and it is already ours and we never lost it, of course the Holy Spirit can give it to us. Okay, paragraph 11. You do not recognize the enormous waste of energy you expend in denying truth. What would you say of someone who persists in attempting the impossible, believing that to achieve it is to succeed? The belief that you must have the impossible in order to be happy is totally at variance with the principle of creation. God could not will that happiness depended on what you could never have. The fact that God is love does not require belief, but it does require acceptance. It is indeed possible for you to deny facts, although it is impossible for you to change them. If you hold your hands over your eyes, you will not see, because you are interfering with the laws of seeing. If you deny love, you will not know it, because your cooperation is the law of its being. You cannot change laws you did not make, and the laws of happiness were created for you, not by you. So luckily, we cannot change the laws of happiness. Happiness is ours eternally, if we have the eyes to see it. So what would you say of someone who persists in attempting the impossible, believing that to achieve it is to exceed? Succeed. Okay. When I feel fear or stress, I'm attempting the impossible. And when I become aware of that, I can kind of subside or relax back into, or come back to myself and remember, my mind holds only what I think with God. There is no love but God's. And start again. So we pause to remember. We pause to start again. I also pause to see, what thought was I believing just now? Blades are dangerous. That's the thought I was just believing. Okay, that's all right. It's okay to expose a thought and give it to bring the darkness to the light, and give that thought to the light of the Holy Spirit. That's what renders it harmless. So we want to take these little swords we've been fighting with, these little blades, and give them to the Holy Spirit, where they belong. Okay. Paragraph 12. Any attempt to deny what is must be fearful, and if the attempt is strong, it will induce panic. Willing against reality, though impossible, can be made into a very persistent goal, even though you do not want it. But consider the result of this strange decision. You are devoting your mind to what you do not want. How real can this devotion be? If you do not want it, it was never created. If it were never created, it is nothing. Can you really devote yourself to nothing? So when I'm trying to get something out of this world, and when I feel fear, I can feel my devotion to nothing. I can feel my attempt to try to get something real out of the world I made up, which I can't ever do. So fear is my indicator that I'm still in panic. The stronger it feels. I'm making a strong attempt to deny reality, to deny what is. And that's okay, because I can be helped. Any attempt to deny what is must be fearful. Well, what is always good, thank goodness. So when I'm fearful, I'm trying to block out what is good, because I'm confused. But I can always reorient back toward what is good and remind myself. And if the attempt is strong, it will induce panic. There are times when we think, well, I'm not afraid, but we might be feeling aggressive, angry, irritable, tired, all forms of fear. So it's the same thing. Okay. Paragraph 13. God in his devotion to you created you devoted to everything and gave you what you are devoted to. Otherwise, you would not have been created perfect. Reality is everything, and you have everything because you are real. You cannot make the unreal because the absence of reality is fearful, and fear cannot be created. I paused for a moment because my daughter came to tell me she's unscrewing another blade. And I can't remember where I left off, so I'm going to guess. Okay, you cannot make the unreal because the absence of reality is fearful, and fear cannot be created. As long as you believe that fear is possible, you will not create. Opposing orders of reality make reality meaningless, and reality is meaning. So God in his devotion to you created you devoted to everything and gave you what you are devoted to. So good news, you are devoted to everything. And you already have what you're devoted to. You're not lacking anything. I'm not lacking anything. Even if the ego tells me in this world I made up I lack a particular thing, it's lying every time. And Spirit can show us how. Even if it seems to fly in the face of ego's most cherished beliefs about what fulfills us, keeps us going, keeps us happy, keeps us healthy even, if we seem to lack anything, the Spirit can come in and show us that we're wrong, and it's good to be wrong. It's very good to be wrong. God in his devotion to you created you devoted to everything and gave you what you are devoted to. You've never not been devoted to everything, not in a single moment, and neither have I. Even though this dream seemed to play out, like if you dreamed you murdered somebody last night and you woke up this morning, did you murder someone? No, you didn't. And it's the same way. We've always been fully devoted to all of us and everything, and that cannot change. Okay. Paragraph 14, and the last one. Remember then that God's will is already possible, and nothing else ever will be. This is the simple acceptance of reality, because only that is real. You cannot distort reality and know what it is. And if you do distort reality, you will experience anxiety, depression, and ultimately panic, because you are trying to make yourself unreal. When you feel these things, do not try to look beyond yourself for truth can only be within you. Say, therefore, Christ is in me, and where he is, God must be, for Christ is part of him. So Christ is in me, and where he is, God must be, for Christ is part of him. So we look away from the world we've been fantasizing toward the Christ, and understand that where Christ is, God is, and Christ is part of God. That's our primary identity. That's our address. Let's see. Christ is in me. We look in when we believe ourselves to be in trouble. And where he is, God must be, for Christ is part of him. That's where all the answers are. And from there we can be guided, because somehow we got to get through and out of this illusion. And our guide is here with us today. So we're all in the same position with the same resources and the same love in our hearts. Okay. Hope this is helpful. Thank you for listening. Happy healing.